So here's a number that should terrify you. 96% of all agency owners will never take home more than 6 figures in profit, ever. Not like in a year or in a month, ever, okay? So 4% of people make it to 6 figures or more. The worst part about all of this is that most of these guys are convinced that they're working their ass off. And I mean, to be fair to them, usually they are. When I was making $32,000 in my first year of agency in profit, I was working my ass off. That was the reality. But during that year, I figured something out that completely flipped the switch, at least for me. And ever since, it's been exactly what I've been preaching on every single YouTube video, everywhere, on my Twitter, on my Instagram, anywhere you can find me. This is all I talk about because it changed my life. Now, this exact concept can basically be broken down into 3 very simple steps. And if I was an asshole, I wouldn't give them to you. But lucky for you, I'm a nice guy, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. Just a reminder, this one thing, literally, took me from making $32,000 or $35,000 in profit in the first year of agency to, by the end of that year, I had made $150,000 in clean profit in 2 months, okay? So do the math, all right? Now, these 3 specific beliefs can be broken down very simply. Number 1, the first belief that you need to break is that the skill set that you have only applies to the lower end of the market. That is obviously not true. You immediately need to reposition yourself to offer the exact same service to the higher end of the market. I explain this in every single video I've ever made. So if you don't understand it, I'll put the link to the video right here explaining the economics of how exactly that makes sense. Belief number 2 is that selling bespoke offerings is actually scalable, meaning making things one for one for each client, custom plans, is scalable. That is not true at all. Everything needs to be systematized. You need to be running offers that are basically a service in a box. Okay, this is exactly why these growth operator businesses are great. They do good cash flow, but they cannot sell these businesses because they are the ones doing the work, and all of the work is so customized that none of them have ever made a scaled business doing it. There's no growth operator that's doing $1 million a month in pure profit. It just doesn't happen because the service offering that they have cannot be scaled. It requires either them or it requires a very particular offering for each of their customers. You can't do that. Everything needs to be boxed. That's how you scale. Belief number 3 is that you have to focus on one offer in order to be successful. Now, you definitely should have one offer that is consistently your main offer, but at the same time, I'm always testing out high ticket offers, and I'll do it for as little money as possible. I will literally put together a Canva ad, pop it up, and start taking a couple of sales calls at very, very low spend per day. This is how I got myself started. When Savvy Social started, $100 a day in ad spend, and I was the only one on calls, and then I bumped it to $200, and then I bumped it to $300 a day. But it's the same thing for validating a new offer. Just because you have an existing business, you shouldn't necessarily shut it down to go all your chips in on this new great offer doing the exact same service to a higher level of the market. You should test it, validate it, close one person, and then immediately hand it off to sales and marketing individuals that are taking a piece of the action once you've already proven out the model. Now, let's dive into what I talked about a little bit earlier when I was 22, and I figured out that I could take what I was already doing for my existing clients and go offer it at a higher end of the market. Basically, I was doing marketing and mostly just Instagram growth. So running meme page growth, running theme page growth for various different businesses and operators. But one of them was the Kardashians jeweler. And so I was running influencer growth for him. And he said, oh, I'm not growing fast enough. Put together a plan that will actually help me just blow up. And so I put together a plan. I ran all of the metrics and I showed him how he could get from 50,000 or 100,000 followers a month to doing millions of followers a month. And what this included was giveaways on influencers' pages, what would now be considered UGC. And I mapped it all out and I mapped out the metrics and da-da-da. And then I went to him and I said, okay, it's going to cost you 200 grand a month. And he laughed at me. And it was at that moment that I realized I was trying to sell something to the wrong person. And so around that time, Wall Street bets had occurred. And so what I did was I said, okay, what I could probably do is go to these guys that I already knew that were doing very basic marketing for IPOs, for publicly traded companies, helping them increase awareness amongst retail traders. And those same people could probably use this massive influencer campaign in order to drive awareness amongst retail investors. And so based on this thesis, I went to everybody that I knew. I didn't run ads. I didn't do anything. I went out and I sold the first one by literally literally hitting the pavement. I talked to as many people as I knew in the industry in order to get it done. I didn't go through my parents. I didn't go through my uncle. I literally had to go through individuals that I just knew in the city who did have parents or uncles or friends of friends who were in the industry already. And eventually I landed that first contract, which was $400,000 for 2 months of work. Keep in mind, that whole year I had done $130,000 in revenue and about $32,000 in profit. And that was the moment that I realized I had been doing work for the wrong industry, the wrong people the whole time. Because the amount of work that I had to do on that one campaign for 3 times as much revenue as I had made the entire year for only 2 months of work was actually significantly less than what I had done that whole year for 130 grand. So I went from this guy who was 22, grinding it out, making 130,000 a year to, being 26 now. And I do somewhere between all of the businesses, somewhere in the ballpark of $6 million a year in revenue. And the amount of work that I do, honestly, probably a little bit less. It's just more focus. And the work that I personally do is extremely less. Like most of my day is just making phone calls and making sure that the people that I have in positions are doing their job. I want to be clear here though, the turning point for me wasn't that I learned outbound or that I learned how to run YouTube ads or LinkedIn ads or learned a new skill. The turning point for me was simply who I was offering my services to. Now, let's go over the belief number 1 that we talk about here, which is that the skill set that you currently have only applies to the market that you're currently serving. Okay, so most agency owners think that high ticket is way out of their league. They think that anything above $2,000 sales price is high ticket, which it isn't. I would say anything above 20 grand is high ticket. And these industries that are older, guarded, and more corporate are just something that they couldn't touch because they don't speak the lingo. They didn't grow up in nepotism, not understanding that specific sector, and they haven't even considered going to those sectors maybe. There's tons of sectors that guys just don't tap into. Lawyers, huge industry, easy to make 100 to 200 grand a month with that industry. Accountants, super easy to make a lot of money, but a little bit tighter with cash, as I'm sure you can imagine. Construction or development, like all of these kinds of industries that are very, very corporate, but that consulting companies, like go and look up and read about what consulting companies do, okay? They will make millions of dollars to advise a company to do a merger and then make another $2 million, $3 million, $5 million advising them through the merger, and then when the numbers don't work out, they'll make another $2 to $5 million advising them on how they should break up the merger that they advised them to do. Okay, it's insane. And so when you realize that people are making 10, 15, 20 million dollars to help somebody get into and out of the same relationship, making 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, $1 million for doing a service that genuinely produces a very significant result for these people is nothing. It's peanuts to these people as long as you can deliver, which you probably already are at the lower end of the market. The idea here is the same. That same skill that you have running Facebook ads for $500 a day, or maybe it's $100 a day for a guy that's producing him $10,000 a month in revenue or $50,000 a month in revenue. That same skill, but upskilled to a specific sector that is willing to spend $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 a day on ads, and they're looking to pull out $1 million, $5 million, $10 million a month because they have a service that's worth it. Those two are the exact same thing. And the sooner that you can wrap your head around that, the easier your life is going to become and the fuller your pockets will be. The other reality is that you are facing way less competition when you go to these guys. These corporate clients need your expertise way more than small businesses do because they are so much more corporate and there's so much more bureaucracy that getting these ideas to the front lines of the business is almost impossible unless an outside party comes in and suggests it. Whereas in a small business, the CEO could take a look at what you're doing and say, well, I can just run ads. That's never going to happen in a corporate environment. The last piece of this is that they have much bigger problems to solve at a dollar value wise, which means that your torque, your leverage on your time, on the skill that you've learned, whatever activity you're doing in order to make a business money is significantly higher just because of the fact that the end result create significantly more cash. Now, the one thing that is going to be absolutely crucial for this to actually work is that you need to reposition yourself. You can't call yourself a Facebook ads agency. You can't call yourself a Facebook ads engineer. You need to be looking at yourself as a marketing director or as a demand generation specialist, whatever the case might be, or a consulting firm at minimum. And even consulting firm is still a little low level for what you really should be aiming for. Savvy Capital used to be Savvy Social, and it was literally just an agency. I am a full investment bank now, okay? And so the sooner that you can get yourself to be a legitimate firm, a legitimate business, is when you really start collecting cash. This is simple too. You're changing little words. Instead of saying I run ads, you're saying I solve commercial problems. I create commercial success, things like that, where it's just small changes in wording. Do not focus on the channel. That's what a lot of low-level guys do. Focus on the output. Last piece of this is just making sure that you're targeting industries with high-value customers. Things like SaaS, like legal, like accounting, things like financial services, you name it. These guys just have way bigger problems at way higher tickets. Now, here's something that you can do today to actually put this into effect. Number one, sit down and write down the 3 skill sets that you have, the hard skills. For me, this was sales, marketing, and outbound marketing. Okay, so inbound being Facebook ads, outbound being email. The second thing is take those skill sets, plug it into GPT, and ask, what are the industries where I can make the most amount of money given these 3 skill sets? Number 3 is craft a case study that shows the ROI in terms of percentage so that you can apply those ROI numbers to your clients or prospective clients as you start speaking with them. Okay, so you can say, we helped Johnny do X to Y, and we can help you do Y to Z. Okay, so once you actually have hard numbers, then you can work with them. The dollar amounts themselves are unlikely to impress people. So you got to change that into a percentage so it's applicable to whatever industry you're in. The second belief that holds people back is that bespoke services are scalable. This is actually why I got out of marketing, IPOs, or helping people raise awareness amongst retail investors, is that it was very bespoke. It was very one-to-one, custom solutions for these clients. People think that by offering custom solutions, it makes it so that you can really get down to the nitty-gritty of the business. You can help solve specific pain points for people, and that being flexible equals more sales. Being the guy that says, tell me your problems and I will figure out a solution, makes you have more sales. I mean, that's true in theory at the very beginning, but as you start to scale, it's just going to bottleneck the shit out of you. And you can't scale a sales team like that. You're gonna have to teach every sales team everything you could possibly do. It's just not feasible. So instead, you have to figure out ways that a boxed service solution can work for various different types of ICPs that you see come through your funnel on a consistent basis. Generally, this will be your most requested and highest margin solution that you might already be doing. And if it isn't, that's exactly what you got to figure out. What are your ICPs coming in? What are the majority of them asking for? Right? Your ideal customer profile. And then what can you do for them at the highest possible margin that solves the majority of people's problems? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Then you package it with clear boundaries and guidelines for you to be able to communicate to the prospects. And then thirdly, you tell your existing clients, look, we're specializing in order to be able to serve you better moving forward. A very good example of this is exactly what we're doing right now at Savvy Capital. I am turning Savvy Capital into a much more scalable boxed service and then cutting out the more custom solutions into a higher end investment bank. So Savvy Capital will still continue to service people in a very boxed solution manner. We'll go out to the market at scale to help you find institutional investors, and Zastri & Co. will be the investment bank that offers still a boxed solution, but just in a more bespoke manner, so we're more high touch. And this is in order for us to be able to service the majority of clients better and with a higher degree of touch. And then on the other side, we no longer have the drag on the service delivery team that focuses on these high-touch solutions in Savvy Capital. All these guys do, and that's all that these guys market. And so there's 2 very distinct timelines, there's 2 very distinct service deliverables, and there's 2 very distinct price points. And so I've done that specifically to solve for this issue right here. So here's kind of a 90-day solution in order to get you to where you need to go. Month 1, you're going to write down what are your most profitable service solutions that you're already offering. Now, month 2, you're going to transition your willing clients over to this new standardized process. process. And by month 3, you should be replacing these clients that fell off with more compliant clients to the existing new boxed service solution. A really good example of this is going to like a local burger restaurant that you might love, and they'll do exactly custom burgers for you, versus going to McDonald's and they sell, 5-10 burgers that you can pick from a list, and that's all you're going to get. You're not going to customize those burgers unless you pay a lot more for that customization. And so it's the same kind of process and thought process that's gone into creating these distinctions. The number 3 belief that you got to beat out is that you've got to focus on one offer in order to be successful. A lot of gurus will preach that you only need one offer in order to hit multi-7 figures, and that testing new offers is a distraction. They'll even say that you need to master one before adding another. Now, in theory, this is true. You want to get really good at one thing in order to jump to the next thing once you've mastered the first thing. But the reality is this is going to keep you poor, because you are going to be focusing on something that might not necessarily be the best vehicle for you. And as you come up with new vehicles, and because you're open to the idea of entering a new vehicle, you're going to constantly come up with things that might actually be better than whatever your existing business is. And so to be open to that is exactly where you're going to find success and see business models that will propel you far beyond whatever previous business models you might have had. I would say to do this really successfully, you want to just dedicate a small amount of your time, call it 10%, to validating out these new offers, okay? You want to run them super lean. So like I said at the top of the video, just go to Canva, create a very basic text template, and run a static ad out to the ideal audience from a new ad account, new Facebook page. And this really doesn't take very long. I can do this in an hour and a half, 2 hours. We test new offers to see if they work. First, you're looking, are people booking calls? What's the booking rate from leads? If it's higher than 30%, you're onto something. Second, what are people saying on the calls that you're getting on? Are you closing at a 10% or higher rate? If you are, again, you're onto something. Once you have that figured out, once those 2 variables are figured out, then you can start hiring commission-only salespeople to actually get the job done for you in your place. And you can either continue to run the business that you previously had, or you can scale it back and move your focus over to this new offer, which is producing better results. I think it's the same adage that people tell you about moving jobs. Once the one offer is producing significantly more than whatever the other offer is doing, that's when you can make that transition to that offer. And there's times where you don't need to make the full transition. You don't necessarily have to do one or the other. You can run both. I should be clear though, do not waste your time going after opportunities that are going to give you the same leverage, the same cash flow, or the same outcome as whatever you're currently doing, because then you're not going to see outsized success. Okay? You want to only be going after better opportunities, better long-term success paths, and higher cash flow. These are generally going to be higher ticket offers. And lastly there, you only want to handle the strategy and the first few closes. Do not let this suck up all of your time, because then it will become a distraction that takes away from your existing successful business. If you guys want a free list of highly validated offers that are already working in the marketplace or are very, very likely to work based on the principles that I've laid out in a number of other videos, make sure to head on over to my Instagram and DM me personally. You can send me the message list and I will send that over to you. The link to my Instagram is in the description for this video. Make sure that you click it, DM me the word list, and I'll send that over to you. As always, I'm Alex Astry, and this is how you make your first million.